Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, Alan Browne has been working with geospatial data for many years, and now his company, Soarvo, is helping to make this data more accessible. Alan joins us now to tell us about the traction which it has achieved to date and its plans for the US market. Alan, we'll be discussing how Soarvo, the engineering tech firm, is helping to democratise access to geospatial data. But first, I'd like to get an insight into your own background.
Good morning, Karl, and thank you very much for having me here. Well, I qualified as an engineer in 1990, but very quickly I ended up getting involved in supplying geospatial equipment, mostly into the construction industry at that time. When I say geospatial, that was what people would have remembered, like theodolites and old measuring instruments. But over the years, the technology has advanced hugely, and we've got involved in lots of different types of contracts and projects involving infrastructure and some exciting sports and things like that.
So what is geospatial data and how is it used on a day-to-day basis?
Really, geospatial data is like anything that has a position on the Earth's surface or near the Earth's surface. And you know, it also usually has some kind of attribute that gives you an indication as to what it is. But actually, having watched the golf at the weekend, a really good idea of what geospatial data is where we now see the fly-throughs of the golf holes. That's a really good idea of how geospatial data has advanced. We now see all the 3D context of the golf hole, where in the past we might have just seen a straight plan view.
And what problems currently exist with regard to how geospatial data is accessed?
Well, now it's become an awful lot easier to collect geospatial data. A person flying a drone, or actually a person using a laser scanner or a mobile mapping vehicle, it's very easy to operate those and collect the data. So there's lots and lots of data being collected. But what has happened is that all those different types of data have tended to be held in little silos, so they don't get mixed together to get the great insights that you can by actually merging all those data types together.
So how is Soarvo democratizing access to geospatial data?
Well, really, Soarvo is a cloud-based platform, and it seamlessly integrates all those diverse geospatial data types into an interactive 3D environment. And that's accessible in any browser, and it eliminates the need for costly hardware or software. And that enables like all the stakeholders to visualize and collaborate and make informed decisions effortlessly. So we have three pillars: aggregate, illustrate, and collaborate with that data.
And what industries or applications has Soarvo been designed to service?
It's things like infrastructure, utilities, construction companies, survey businesses, down to the likes of small drone operators. So anybody who's collecting this type of geospatial data and needs to share it with their clients or stakeholders to get like great value from that data.
And how is Soarvo differentiating itself in the market?
Well, really, what we've seen, because we've been around this business for a long time, is that there's lots of people carrying it there's great software out there for engineering and there's great software out there for mapping. But what there isn't so far is a solution that is able to merge all those different types of data, but that it's also easily accessible to the non-geospatial specialists.
And from a user's perspective, how can Soarvo be deployed?
It's such a simple user interface, and again, it's designed for the non-geospatial specialists. So if we have a situation like a person who does traditional roof inspections, they can now fly over that roof with a drone and pick up really good information. But they can now share that information in a kind of geospatial, in a 3D and a contextualized environment. So the person who's a roof expert can now view that roof and actually understand the context of where it is geographically, as well as the absolute condition of that roof. So it makes it simple for people to understand the data in the actual kind of contextualized environment.
And what are the cost savings and efficiencies that can be achieved by using Soarvo?
Well, traditionally, this type of data, it's big data. You know, you're talking about, billions and billions of points. traditionally to process it is expensive, so you need very powerful hardware, but also then you need expensive software. So we're reducing the requirement. We're giving people access to super processing power, super visualization power, and without the need for the investment in hardware or specialized software.
And provide us with an insight into the business itself from a resource perspective. How many staff have you got and what are their skill sets?
So I think we've about 12 people at the moment. That's between the UK and Ireland. And they develop from our, we have our development team. So we have specialist front-end developers, DevOps, back-end. So we're building the infrastructure, and then obviously we have the operation side, the management and marketing as we're starting to roll the product out now. So, and that's structured between the UK and Ireland.
And have you got much support from Enterprise Ireland?
We're just starting on that journey now, and we have a history working in the UK and Ireland, but we're looking to start moving further afield. We've started to get a lot of inquiries from the US, interestingly, particularly in California after the wildfires. People were looking for ways to quickly assess the situation there. So we definitely see a big opportunity in the US. So we'd be hoping that Enterprise Ireland will be able to help us out in that.
And what will your route to market be into the US market?
We will probably partner with some people who are selling drones or people who are selling instrumentation into the geospatial market. We'll probably start around that, but we definitely will have a product which we will call our community product, which people will be able to buy online. So for the simple, start out users, it'll be an easy sign up online and get some pretty cool functionality straight away.
And is AI being deployed in the processing of the geospatial data within Soarvo at the moment?
Yeah, so for a couple of our solutions, we're using AI. So we've done some work with National Highways in the UK on their concrete roads program, and we used AI in terms of we were driving these roads and creating imagery of the road surface. That imagery was then pumped through an AI engine, which was determining the areas of degradation and the condition of that surface, and it was following a rule set that National Highways create for the different types of damage or degradation on the road surface. So that was our first foray into AI.
And to date, in what infrastructural projects on both land and water has the solution been used on?
We've worked with MBI on the broadband rollout here in Ireland, and we've worked with a couple of the ports where they're working on building underwater and above water models of their infrastructure. So just making sure that the as we saw before Christmas, the challenges are, say, around Holyhead. Very often there's problems that they can't see because they're underwater, but actually with sonar surveys blended with LiDAR surveys, which is how they measure above the water, that all can create a really clear model that is very easy to understand for anybody.
And in terms of growth opportunities for Soarvo, where will you be focusing your attention specifically over the next 12 to 18 months?
So in terms of product, we're continually developing the product as some of the things that we see that we want to build into the product. But every day our users are coming back to us with some ideas in what we can add into the product. So, we're handling drone data, we're handling, sonar data for underwater, we're handling most types of geospatial data. So in terms of the functionality, we're just making it easier and easier to handle that data.
And Alan, finally, for anyone listening this morning that might be interested in establishing a new engineering tech firm, what advice can you share with them?
I'd say the most important thing is to really be clear what market you're trying to serve and who will be your customer, and understanding what they need. I think that is the most important thing. You get, obviously, funding and your engineering is all important, but the most important thing is understanding who are you going to serve.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Alan Browne from Soarvo, and I'd like to wish Alan every success with those expansion plans.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.